You guys are probably wondering, Tsui, if you had a plan to wear this getup, why in God's name did you cut your beard? Well, I didn't have a plan to wear it until I wore it, so I guess maybe it was a mistake. In any event, so I spoke about this earlier today, but I want to read to you guys something that was written by the heck is this? Before I tell you guys what I want to read by the Lubavitcher Rebbe, I'll tell you guys a story of this unraveling keffiyeh. Oh my goodness, what's going on over here? I'll tell you guys a story of this unraveling keffiyeh that I actually bought in the old city from an Arab man. And here we go. How does this work? Okay, good. So this is Purim 2013. And I was like, you know what? This is going to be my costume. So I walk into this very long store, like a very, very long shop in the old city. It's like the first shop that you go into on the right when you're going towards the Arab Shuk, right? Right when you come in by Jaffa Gate. So I walk in and I see this guy, old Arab man, and I'm like, do you have any keffiyehs? Like, yeah, sure. How much is this? Okay, wonderful. I'm like, I need a Purim costume. He's like, sit down. I see he's watching like some, he's watching Arab soap opera or something like that. So he's like, sit down. I'm like, no, I gotta go. I got a Megillah reading. I gotta go. I can't. I really have to go. I have to go all the way across town, Yerushalayim. And then I see he's got 6 fingers on one hand. And he's very insistent. And he starts already making the tea and everything, the mint tea. I was like, okay, you know what? I better sit down because maybe if I don't, he's gonna make me have 4 fingers. So, or I don't know, maybe chop off one of my fingers and then donate one of his fingers. I don't know. Anyway, I sit down, and I'm like, you know what? This guy forced me to sit here, so I'm gonna ask him a question. I didn't think he was ready for it, so I'm just gonna ask him a question. I'm like, can I ask you a question? Why did you guys leave in 1948? It's like that little voice that says, Tzvi, don't ask the question, don't ask the question, don't ask the question. I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna ask him a question. Why did you guys leave in 1948? He goes to me, you see this store? I live in this store. My father used to own this store, and now I inherited it from him when he passed away. He had to pay something that was levied on him, arnona, which is property tax, by the British at that time, 35,000 shekels a year, which is equivalent to $10,000 a year. Maybe a little over that. But at that time, $10,000 a year, arnona, is a lot of money, guys. It's a lot of money. And he was one of the few people that could do it. He goes, another reason, and a lot of people couldn't, so they left. Another reason was that they said on the Arab radio that Jews were running around beating up Arabs. That's what they said. So a lot of people got scared and they left. Because, at that time, Jews instilled fear in Arabs, unlike today. So, interesting story. Okay. So I leave, the guy tells me, Hak Sameach and everything like that. I gave over the story to Professor Mordechai Kedar. This whole story. I gave him the whole story of how I sat and how the guy greeted me and this. He goes to me, my friend Tzvi, don't be naive. Don't get it twisted. The guy was very hospitable to you. He's a Muslim. He's doing what Muslims have to do when you're in their abode. But as soon as you step out that door, if you turn around and you're not watching yourself, a knife can go in your back. He goes, don't be naive. Don't live in a fantasy world. He was nice to you, this and that. Okay, as long as we're the ruler, as long as we're Hazak, very hospitable. But the minute that ends, that ends. Okay. With that said, guys, I want to read to you something from the Lubavitcher Rebbe, which actually is a transcription, something he said in 1980. In 1980. And I said this today, but I didn't quote the sources. I didn't have them on hand. Now I want to read to you guys this whole thing, just so you understand, what's going on, really. Rabbi Yochanan quotes Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai regarding the war of Gog and Magog. It seems like it is a terrible tragedy for the Jews, but as it says in Sanhedrin, Tractate Sanhedrin, the Talmud, and other sources, Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai said, King David ran from his son, Avshalom, and he exclaimed, Ma rabat zoreh, how big are my problems? Whereas on the Pasuk, why do nations gather and people speak futility? He doesn't say, how big are my problems, but the opposite. On Yehugurik, speaking futility, Rashi and other commentaries explain that it is not tzore, like tzuris, tragedy, it is rik vehevel, futility. It has no meaning for the Jews. It has no meaning for the Jews. I'm going to say it in Arabic. It has no meaning for the Jews. The nations are fighting between themselves, gathering and talking, but it's all ineffective. Why? Because he who sits in heaven laughs and mocks them. Hashem is instigating Egyptians this is at that time, 1980. There was a civil war in Egypt. Amongst themselves and different nations between them. Then comes the question, how should a Jew view this? We have the decree from the Torah that even through nations, even though nations are gathering and talking negatively, still for the Jews it has absolutely no meaning. But not because of our own strength, God forbid. But because he who sits in heaven laughs and mocks them. And that's why it's not affecting the Jews. Guys, you see, Bennett's trying to get involved, and Zelensky with this and that. We're trying to take in refugees. Really, come on, let's get real here. They call it tragedy? God forbid. Excuse me. The nations come up with different ideas, but it's all hevel larik, futility. Why? Because Hashem is with us. The fact that they are gathering, Jewish people know it is all pointless, because he who sits in heaven laughs and mocks them. He is not just notifying, but he is mocking and laughing at them. As it says, excuse me, he who touches them, he is touching the apple of my eye. That's what Rabbi Shimon Bar Yochai is saying about the 7th year. This is what we're in now, Shemitah year. He's talking about the year of the coming of Mashiach. Right at the end of the 7th year of wars, Mashiach comes. Which wars? The ones where nations gather and speak futility. Guys, it's been happening the last 7 years, since 2015. Since Mr. Red, Orange Man, announced he's going to run. The last 7 years they've been doing this, guys. The last 7 years they've been running game. The story of Egypt, the story of Afghanistan, another story, speaking of Afghanistan. That fight, another fight, that fight, another fight. But in relation to Jews, the guardian of Israel neither slumbers nor sleeps. Why? Because Jews are connected with the guardian of the Jews. Then he sees in a revealed way that Hashem in heaven laughs and mocks them. And the war of Gog and Magog is not affecting the Jewish people. Gog is fighting with Magog, and it says in Tanakh that it will be in Jerusalem, but that has nothing to do with the Jewishness in Jerusalem and not the city of Jerusalem. Rather, it's around Jerusalem. Guys, what they're talking about here is the old city versus everything else outside of it. You see, Zelensky proposed. Zelensky the Jew proposed, hey, why don't we have the talks in Jerusalem? He proposed it to Bennett. Why don't you bring Shmutin and me, and we'll have talks in Jerusalem. It's not going to be in the old city. It's going to be just outside the old city. Somewhere in Jerusalem, like New City. Which here is considered around Jerusalem. The Jews are standing strong because Jerusalem is a city where King David lived, and the name Yerushalayim comes from the words Yiras Hashem Shlema, which means complete fear of God. And Jews who are complete God-fearing people bring into actuality, and the city of Jerusalem will stay untouched. My friends, Putin, when he visited Israel a few years ago, it was a trip to Israel and Jordan. He went to Jordan afterwards, and he gave a press conference to his media in Amman. And he said, and they asked him, what was your impression of Jerusalem, of Israel, but of Jerusalem in particular? He said, the people are very warm. The people are very, spiritual and holy. They greeted me nicely. And he says, people have to realize, and this is, guys, you can say whatever you want about Putin. He said like this. He said, every single conflict in the world, I'm repeating again, this is what he said, guys. You can go look at the videotape, as our friend Warren Wolf says. Every single conflict in the world comes down to this one place. He was talking about Har Bayis and the old city. Putin said this. Каждый конечном итоге сводится на это место. I'm saying it in Russian the way that he said it. I'm saying it verbatim. You guys, you can go look at this video. It's available. There's subtitles there. Excuse me. When he said that, these Russian journalists were like this. The nations, now the Rebbe continues. This is the end. The nations are Utsu Eitza, contriving a scheme. Utsu Eitza, at the end of davening, You ever sing that song? Only Filbavitch, right? Contriving a scheme, but when the Jewish children behave in a manner of God is with us. You know that song? When their conspired plot will not be materialized. My friends, this song that I was just singing, it's in every Siddur, but not everybody sings it. The only people that I know sing it are Lubavitchers. I don't know why. I don't know why that's the case, but it's in every Siddur. It's in every art scroll, every Ashkenazi. Doesn't matter what you are. My friends, all the stuff you see in front of your face, it's for the sake of us, for the sake of the Jews. But it's you see Hashem is sitting and laughing and mocking them. That's why you see he's using this little Yevrejchik, this little Jew, Zelensky. Basically, they think they're in control. They think they're using him to for their own purposes. They're using Ukraine, they're using this little Jew for their own purposes. They don't realize that Hashem is sitting and laughing and mocking them. Hashem is laughing and mocking Putin. He's laughing and mocking this Shmab, and this Shmedo, and this Shmeiden, and the Shmo Mama, Yo Mama, beat your mama. This Shmoros, he's sitting and laughing and he's mocking all these people. And it's all for our sake. And Jerusalem's not going to be touched. And they're going to try to go and, they're going to try to go and meet over there. It's got nothing to do with, Jerusalem Jewishness. It's got all to do with this politics nonsense outside of Jerusalem, which is like today the new city, but they're talking about Jerusalem, the old city, Iratika. Guys, everybody needs to get their heads out of the you-know-where. Just wake up, wake up and smell the mint tea that the six-fingered man gave to me. My friends, with that said, Purim Sameach. It's still Purim, now Purim, in Yerushalayim, the walled city, Shushan Purim, happy Shushan Purim. Speaking of which, in Yerushalayim, we're still celebrating. I'm still in that mode, even though I'm good with drinking for now. Yeah, my friends, but it's still Adar, and we have another couple of weeks of Adar left. So, in the words of Rabbi Kessin, let's see what happens. All right, guys, I'll talk to you soon.